Kenny Cunningham, a very good morning to you.
Morning, lads.
So we heard Damien there talking about these comments from Pep Guardiola, suggesting that Sadio Mane is prone to diving a good bit on Saturday. He has since come out to clarify that. He says, it was far from my intention to say that Sadio Mane is that type of player because I admire him a lot. For Jurgen, it was a penalty. For the referee, it was a penalty. And VAR, it was a penalty. Maybe I was wrong or not to think it was a penalty. Jurgen knows Sadio better than me, and I have incredible respect for that. When Klopp says he's not like this, then it is not like this. So is that the case closed, Kenny?
Yeah, sounds like it. Yeah, loving resumed. Yeah, it was a bit of an odd comment from Guardiola. It took me a bit by surprise. Owen, it wasn't as if he was kind of led down that direction, was it? By the interviewer, obviously wanted to make a point, but I thought it was pretty weak, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? I thought he was a little bit better than that. So I'm glad they've actually brushed it on the carpet, because these things can get very tedious. These comments leading up to such a big game, you want to be concentrating on the football and the individual qualities of each team's players on the pitch going into the game.
How much do you reckon someone like Pep Guardiola gets obsessed with his opposition in a week like this? How much is he thinking about Klopp and Liverpool?
Well, he gives out the impression on that it's all about him, his team, their individual qualities, the collective setup of the team, kind of their mentality. How often do we hear that? And I kind of quite believe him. He's very focused on his team's preparation and actually putting the game plan into practice in terms of the football they want to play week in, week out, maintaining that high level of performance regardless of the opposition, regardless of whether it's home or away. That's his kind of philosophy. We hear that kind of drumbeat so often. So I'm always a little bit surprised when he kind of deviates away from it. But I think but underneath the owner, there is a little bit of pressure there from Manchester City's point of view. Haven't been in this position too often over the last couple of years. Yes, Liverpool had that big lead halfway during last season, but there's real pressure on Manchester City, even the early stages of this season, the obvious lead which Liverpool have. So clearly a little bit of pressure on the shoulders of Guardiola and his players going into the game against this weekend, as there is the Liverpool players as well. They're going into the game in the knowledge that if they can beat Manchester City, the gap opens up to 9 points. If they don't, it's back to 3 points and it's kind of game on.
Which of the two teams have you been less convinced by so far, Kenny? I know obviously City are 6 behind, but Liverpool aren't at their best either. Most people would agree, but where is your kind of allegiance at the moment in terms of who's going to win this? Yeah,
it's an interesting one. Question that, John, because looking at the table, you'd say, well, automatically Liverpool are the best form, they're the best team, but in a funny way, I'd probably argue the opposite in terms of if you actually dissect Liverpool's performances since the start of the season. For me, it's just more so that kind of attitude, that kind of mental resolve, a kind of bit of relentless energy which they have in terms of, focusing on that title, which is kind of giving them that 6-point lead. Yes, they've played well and some great individual talent within the squad has won them games, but in terms of the collective unit, so far this season, I haven't exactly been bowled over by them. I'm still not exactly sure in terms of the balance, just in a couple of areas of the team. John, that central midfield area for me is one which I'll be fascinated which way Klopp jumps before the game at the weekend. Oxlade-Chamberlain pushing hard now for a start for me, and that midfield three, he's been so loyal to Fabinho, kind of Henderson and Ronaldo. He must be seriously thinking maybe just changing the dynamic in that central midfield area to cope with the threats of De Bruyne and Silva in particular. But you are right. I don't think it's been perfect for Liverpool. The defensive unit for me has been a little bit out of sync. Obviously, Klopp's made a couple of changes there at centre-half in terms of Matip, Lovren and Gomez was in last night. I'd love to see him settle on a pairing at centre-half. For me, it's Gomez and Van Dijk. I'm a bit surprised that he's kind of taken Gomez out of the foreign line and stuck with Lovren and Matip. But I think there's more to come from Liverpool. You're right. It hasn't been a perfect couple of players, individual performances here and there. You felt a little bit below par as well. So a bit of encouragement for Manchester City, actually, I think, going into this game. And if Guardiola focused on his own team and producing their kind of high level of performance, particularly from an attacking point of view, we always know defensively there's little frailties there. Liverpool can pounce on the counter-attack. But in possession of the ball, if they're really at it, in terms of the crisp pass and the movement ahead of the ball, that kind of real dynamism which they possess in kind of midfield and forward areas, clearly they can really cause Liverpool problems.
Where are you on that high line, actually, which again looks something that they, they looked a little bit vulnerable from it last night. They've conceded 9 goals from 11 games in the league, which is okay. But what if you were in that defence? You know, would it be something you'd embrace, or would you be kind of thinking, listen, this is just fraught with danger?
Yeah, don't mind the high line, John. I've spoken about this before, but it's all about the decision you make once you hold that high line. It's all dependent on other factors then. Every team I've played in has always looked to push up the pitch and keep as high a line as possible, push the opposition away from your goal, push your midfielders and your forward players higher up the pitch to engage the opposition players. So that's kind of, generally speaking, what most teams are trying to do. But once you get that high line, wherever it is, if that high line is 5 yards from the halfway line or halfway inside your half, once you squeeze as high as you can, it's all about what happens next. And what happens next in terms of where you hold that line or where you begin to drop off and protect the space, it's all about what's happening in front of you in terms of the opposition and pressure on the ball. Has the opposition got the ball? Who has it? Is there enough pressure on the ball? What's the distances? And you've got to compute those things very quickly. In fact, you have to compute them as you're actually on your way up the pitch in terms of squeezing. So by the time you get up there and you hold that line, you actually already know what you're going to do. We're going to hold that line. Have we forced the opposition player to hit the ball early, blindly in behind, knowing that opposition forwards haven't got back to onside positions? If they have got back into onside positions, the man in possession now has good possession. He's got time. He's got his head up. He can actually wait now to pick the pass in behind us off the shoulders of our centre half. Then we've got to drop in. We've got to drop 5, 10, 15 yards deeper and protect the space in behind. That's how Liverpool haven't been doing very well this season. I saw it early in the season, first couple of games of the season, and they haven't really rectified it, really forcing that kind of high line. And it doesn't matter how quick your centre-halves are at times, but they're stood still, feet planted on the ground, and an opposition play. It may not be the quickest thing in the world, but if his time and if his run is right in behind and the ball is released at the right time as well, then you're going to be caught out. So it's not a huge gaping problem for Liverpool at the moment, but it's certainly something that they need to tidy up on.
That kind of comes back to the cohesion, I guess, Kenny, between your centre halves and your midfield three. And is that kind of a knock-on reason why finding their best midfield three is something that they need to do quickly? Like, some people would argue that they've already done that, but you're kind of leaning towards Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. I kind of agree with you that as the season wears on, he might find himself as one of the starting midfielders, one of the first choice three for Liverpool in that position.
Yeah, I think, as you know, I'm a big fan of Oxlade-Chamberlain. I think the season progressively will play a more prominent part. Keita, for me, as well, is an interesting one. There's more to come from him. The biggest question for me, though, and I know obviously Liverpool supporters might be shouting and screaming at me, is Fabinho's position in that holding midfield position. I'm not totally convinced. He's a very good player, don't get me wrong. We're not arguing here, is he good or a bad player. He's a very good player, very talented, very good all-rounded player, very good at possession. Distribution's very good. But as a purely defensive midfield player, going into this game there against Manchester City, that holding midfield player now needs a very specific skill set to cope with the problems that kind of Silva and De Bruyne are going to give you in those inside channels. You've really got to be switched on defensive. You've got to sense danger. You've got to slide across the pitch, make tackles, track runners, just sense danger every 5-10 seconds. And for me, that's not the strongest part of Fabinho's game. And if you actually look at some of not a significant number of the goals that Liverpool have conceded this season, it's down to kind of Fabinho's kind of just lack of alertness, not kind of sense and danger, and at times not having the leg power, lads, to get across the pitch and snuff out danger. If you think back to the Chelsea Kante goal against Chelsea, Kante just waltzed by him in centre midfield, just couldn't run, couldn't move his legs. I'm thinking to the Leicester goal at Anfield a couple of weeks ago. Perez, I think it was, just got in behind him, ball played in behind him, got forward, played in Maddison for the goal, didn't see the danger. Even the Arsenal game, the Tottenham game, last week, when Tottenham broke early in the game, Fabinho was the man who missed the first tackle in central midfield when they broke and won back possession. It was a lazy tackle, and then his recovery wasn't quick enough. So small things like that matter in games like this, particularly against Manchester City. And for me, first name of the team, she would be Henderson in that holding midfield position. For me, he's the best defender with the best defensive mindset that Liverpool have, and that's going to be needed to give a little bit of protection to that kind of back four that we're talking about, but also to deal with the threat of De Bruyne and Silva and those midfield areas. You can take your pick ahead of that. Wijnaldum, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Keita, Lallana, whoever it is, in those Milner, in those kind of advanced two midfield positions, those two number 8s. but that very specific holding midfield position this weekend, more so than most. You don't need a pass for the ball against Manchester City this weekend. You don't need someone with a high level of technical ability, which Fabinho has, very graceful in possession. You need somebody who'll just sit in there in front of that centre half, sense danger, deal with the runs of De Bruyne and De Silva, make tackles, block passing channels, block passing lanes for the whole of the 90 minutes. For me, Henderson serves that. Does that job better than anybody else in the Liverpool team.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring this up, Kenny, and we'll leave Liverpool here after this clip, but Damien Delaney was talking about something relatively similar at our Virgin Media Roadshow in Dundalk on Monday night. Just have a listen to this.
Good way to look at this. When you spoke earlier about teams bringing in young players, it's a young man's game now. You know what I mean? The Aussie guys are 21, 22 years of age, and when these full-backs are pushed in, the midfield players are pushed in, and the ball turns over and you go full press, if they beat the press with one pass, the centre-back's job then all of a sudden is slow this down. Don't commit and quicken up the counter-attack, slow it down. Because if you've got serious legs at full-back and you're 2'8" and you're 6, they're coming. And the statistics or the modern player can cover 10 metres a second, right? So a player flat out in the pro zone stats is 10, 10.1, 10.2 metres a second. So if you can slow a counter-attack down 1 or 2 seconds, that's 20 metres. And your players like Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold, my God, the cavalry will be coming very, very quick. So when they do beat the press, the centre-back's job or the sixth job isn't to go, oh my God, they beat the press, panic, make another bad decision, and now all of a sudden no one's getting back. Slow down, control it, get it wide, so you're buying yourself another couple of seconds because the cavalry will be coming.
I think it's just really keen to hear what you're saying. I think that's what Van Dijk does. He almost slows down fast things that are happening, and he's buying time.
That's what it is, because the cavalry's coming.
Yeah, it's amazing. Because now you've described. I'll use it now, but I'll give you a bit of credit.
Yeah, it's a good piece of analysis there, Kenny. Is it something that you'd agree with, that almost the role of the modern centre forward against counter-attacking teams is just slowing the opposition down, not being the hero and making that brilliant kind of dispossession with a tackle or something like that?
Yeah, but I think that's always been the case, to be honest with you. That's always been good defending as a centre-half. If you find yourself potentially in a 1v1 situation close to the halfway line, don't overly commit yourself, don't get yourself torn, don't get rolled. Just buy a little bit of time, be patient, wait for the opportunity to win the ball clearly, or if not, as Dana suggested there, buy a bit of time for players to recover. So that's kind of lends it a little bit to what I'm saying in terms of that holding midfield position. Because if I'm a centre-half and I'm a little bit isolated, forget about Virgil van Dijk, he can pretty much deal with anybody 1v1. I'm talking about if it's Joel Matip or Lovren over the other side of the pitch, who wouldn't be as confident in terms of dealing maybe with the pace of Raheem still in that inside left position. They're panicking a little bit 1v1. If I was looking inside of my centre midfielder to come across and give me a dig out, I personally wouldn't want to be hanging my hat on Fabinho, making that kind of ground Damon's talking about quickly. I'd be wanting to see Jordan Henderson eating up the ground as he is. He's a racehorse in terms of how he covers the ground, getting across, snapping into the tackle, or getting across quickly and doubling up with me. Very often nowadays, now Damon's talking about the fullbacks getting back. Fullbacks can't get back. They're that high up the pitch. They're all almost level with the centre forwards, kind of 20, 30, 35 yards distance between them and their centre halves. Invariably, it's that holding midfielder. It's his responsibility to get across quickly and double up with those centre halves if they're in 1v1 situations. Fullbacks now are by and large too high up the pitch. They actually can't make it back. That brings back to my original point about that holding midfielder, who you want to see charging across the pitch to give you a dig out if you're in a Liverpool jersey. And for me, it's Henderson rather than Fabinho on that holding midfield position.
All right, very interesting. Just one last question then on Liverpool. We were speaking about Mo Salah earlier on.
Liverpool's Liverpool roadshow this morning now, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. Can you believe it? The team of the nation. Mo Salah's form, Charlie Nicholas was speaking about it, Johnny Ward is speaking about it this morning on AM, that perhaps there are some flags regarding his form at the moment. I'm not sure, do you go along with that?
Oh yeah, but it depends where is the comparison, Owen. If you're comparing at that kind of high water mark, which he was at Liverpool a couple of seasons ago, I mean, it was pretty breathtaking. It was phenomenal in terms of the high level of performance, not just high level of performance, but in terms of the numbers which he was putting down in terms of goals and assists. It was absolutely phenomenal, Owen. So I don't think there's any real surprise he wouldn't be human almost if there wasn't some kind of drop off and those type of numbers which he was producing not too long ago, probably over a year ago. So yeah, I think you're right. Over the last year, maybe his form maybe hasn't quite been at that level. Has been on occasion it's spiked up there and maybe fluctuated a little bit, but I wouldn't be overly critical. And the beauty of this Liverpool team, of course, is if you were to take Salah out of that team, you know, it wouldn't be. Yes, of course, it would be a blow. He's a huge player for them, but such as the quality and such as the balance of the team and kind of forward areas of the pitch, Mane's become so prominent. Fabinho is so key in that area of the pitch. You know, whoever he chooses to bring in, whether it's Origi or even Oxlade-Chamberlain, Lallana, maybe one of those wide positions, you still feel as if the Liverpool machine is going to function regardless. So yeah, Mo Salah at top form, absolutely a huge asset, and maybe actually gives Liverpool the edge at the weekend. But I think the Liverpool squad now is good enough. It's so strong. It kind of looks after itself. You know, one or two people drop out, the unit, you know, it still functions efficiently.
The game of the night last night, Kenny, was obviously at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea 4, Ajax 4, an incredible game. Ajax rendering a big lead, but that tends to happen, I'd imagine, when both of your centre-backs have been sent off for second yellow cards. At the same time, though, it kind of felt like this massive moment at Stamford Bridge last night, even though the winner was chalked off. And there's all these little moments in the season that just suggest that momentum is building nicely behind Frank Lampard, where he can make a real go of this thing, where he isn't going to become the next manager who after 6 or 12 or 18 months just falls by the wayside. He can actually build something special at this club.
Oh, without a doubt, Owen, I agree with you totally. Lampard for me is the kind of real deal. I've always been impressed with him. As soon as he came out of football, I started doing a lot of media stuff. I listened to him a lot, and he really kind of impressed me. He's got a really good eye for the game, tactically very astute. Like the way he carries himself. I always felt this was a manager players would love playing for. That seemed to be the case at Derby, and now going back into Chelsea, I think that's even more so the case. I think he's going to be a great Chelsea manager. He's going to be there for the medium to long term. I think he's going to be an England manager. I actually think he's one of the very few young English managers who could actually potentially go and manage, got the attributes to go and manage one of the top clubs abroad. I rate him that highly. And you're right, he's got a wonderful squad there available to him. They obviously want to play, they're getting better. And I think it could be one of the big stories of the season, what's happening at Chelsea. And people talk about how far they are away from Liverpool and Manchester City. Do you know what? At the end of the season, I don't think that gap's going to be so big. I think with some key acquisitions next summer, if he's given the money to spend, and I think he will, I think Chelsea can very quickly start closing that gap between themselves and Liverpool and Manchester City, because they have got some of the most outstanding young talent in the country, and they're only going to get better. They've got some very experienced, good pros alongside them. Just need to reinforce some key areas of the pitch, probably left back, maybe centre half and centre midfield as well. But if you can get those top quality signings in next summer, Chelsea are going to be in great shape. Chelsea are only heading one way, because such is the talent of that football club, and you can feel it. You can feel that he's pulled the whole their club together, supporters and players. There's a real bond there between the young players and supporters in the stand. It was the right decision to bring Lampard in, and they're going to bear the fruits of that in the years to come.
It's one of the, I suppose, the disguised blessings of the transfer situation as well, Kenny, and that it compelled them to look at these young players. And I think in the wider sense, we do need to look at this, that if a club is kind of almost forced to play young players or blood young players, it's actually great for the English game, because instead of buying in these like foreign imports, which would inevitably be the case, you are bringing in young English players and you're rewarding them. They're going to improve with experience, and I think the fans love that as well. They love to see young talent coming through.
You're right.
You know?
Yeah, you're right. You saw even the fans last night, John, celebrating the young Reece James has come. I was looking at it quite early in the season, thinking it looks as if his legs has gone. His best days are behind. They got a problem there. And then I was speaking to somebody at Chelsea not too long after that, somebody kind of in behind the scenes who kind of very good knowledge of the young he set up there. And they said, don't worry about him. We've got a lad coming through, Reece James, going to be a world beater. So these almost conveyor belt of players coming through. And I actually think, John, the actual ban, the type of manager Lampard is, he's such confidence in these young players. I think regardless of the ban, if I hadn't been there in the summer, I still think these lads would have got their opportunity. Because it's not just a case of, well, we haven't got any players, we've got to put these young lads in. These young kids are absolutely exceptional, John. I know you've probably seen as much of them as I have, but the likes of Hudson-Odoi in particular, 18 years of age, absolutely phenomenal. Pulisic, they remember, is only 21 years of age. Mason Mount, we know them all. Abrahams are there. Reece James as well. One or two others people may not even know already. Some outstanding talent there. They're only going to get better, even by not actually adding to that squad next summer, John. That Chelsea team is going to be better and stronger by the time the season kicks off next year. And you're right, he's actually putting money in the bank, because these players, in terms of their value, is only going to increase over the course of this season. So Frank Lampard's actually putting money in the bank at the Chelsea owners, which they like. The team is getting stronger. He's pulling the whole club together. And like I said, for me, over the next couple of years, not even the next kind of 2, 3, 4 years, I'm talking the next maybe 18 months to 2 years, for me, Chelsea are capable of getting onto the coattails of Liverpool and Manchester City.
Last thing then, Kenny, if you're the captain of a top 6 football club and your own fans are booing you, do you take off your shirt, slam it on the ground, say F off to the fans, and then be happy enough to get the captaincy stripped, or how do you behave in that manner?
Depends if I've been in the gym all week. Yeah,
and have you?
I was happy ripping my top off.
Your gym days are over, Kenny, are they?
No, me, Owen, I'd probably one of them. I'd go to take my top off. It'd actually get stuck around my neck. It'd get all twisted up. And I literally wouldn't be able to get the jersey off. I'd probably knock into somebody coming off the pitch. It'd be absolutely comical. But no, he probably acted in the wrong way, to be honest with you, Xhaka. But I'll be honest with you, Owen, I think Emery was the problem. He should never allow the players to make the appointment Xhaka. I think he should have taken responsibility himself. He should have sensed the problems down the road with Xhaka becoming captain, knowing how Xhaka was perceived by the Arsenal supporters. Eventually, he's made a decision which he should have made in the first time around, by giving the captaincy to Aubameyang, somebody who's playing well, who's going to be in the team, kind of leads the team in terms of example on the pitch, got a good relationship with the supporters. It's the decision he should have made at the start. He just made it too late.
Yeah, like it's a situation now where there was a leadership group which was appointed after Koscielny left. He was part of that group, Xhaka, and voted to be leader, and now he's not in that group whatsoever now, to the point where they're probably going to sell him in January. Like, once you've gone down this path, that's probably the correct course of action. Is it a situation where Emery's finally realised what the right thing to do is here, or can Xhaka feel properly aggrieved?
I'd be hurting a little bit if I was Xhaka, but I think he's actually taking the pressure off Xhaka a little bit on. I don't think the right decision would have been, no, I'm going to stick with you. Some people saying, oh, he's got to stick with him, he's got to back him. But he's been putting a huge amount of pressure on Xhaka's shoulders, sending him back out onto the pitch with the armband on, knowing how he's perceived by the Arsenal supporters, knowing the reaction he's going to get from the Arsenal supporters. That's not good. You don't want to be kind of creating that kind of toxic atmosphere inside the stadium. Arsenal, where they are at the moment, they're playing catch-up. They need what's happening to Chelsea at the moment. They need everybody rallying behind the flag, players, supporters, management, everybody in it together, pushing each other forward. That hasn't happened the last couple of weeks. It's been a bit fractious at Arsenal, so he's got to pull the whole thing together. And the only way he was going to do that was really by asking Xhaka to step aside. If I was Xhaka, I think deep down he knows himself it's the right decision. It's going to be hard to pick himself up from this, I'll give you that. I don't think it's the end of him at Arsenal. I think if he shows a good attitude, shows the right kind of mentality, I think he can still maybe worm his way back into the affections of the Arsenal supporters if he shows the right kind of attitude. But looking at his body language, his demeanour, how he's been talking, it looks as if his time's coming to an end sooner rather than later.
Yeah, like obviously the abuse he got was completely out of line, and is that just something that a modern footballer kind of has to deal with and not allow that?
What kind of abuse are you talking about, on? Like the booing coming off the pitch?
No, the online abuse. You got
nonsense.
Yeah, but that's par for the course. That's the world we're living in. Footballers, celebrity, whoever you are, TV, probably get a bit of yourselves, lads. Dear Johnny, quite outspoken yourself. You probably get a few down on social media, I'd imagine. You're gonna have a tough skin. Like, that's got to bounce off you. Like, you put yourself out there, you go on social media, you put things out, you're going to get it back. There's idiots out there. There always will be. War's never going to change like that.
Yeah, like
that's par for the course. Unfortunately, you have to get on with it. You have to kind of harden yourself to it.
It is kind of, unfortunately that's it. Like, but it does make social media a cesspit. Like, you know, I go on social media on Sunday defending Alan Manus for his stance in the anthem, and like, I'm called a West Brit, and there are like 50 people liking that. Like, that, I couldn't be less West Brit than anyone. And you're just like, is this actually happening? Like, and it's just, but then when you've what Xhaka had to deal with, where like wishing cancer on his daughter or something like that, you're like, I think we need to get to the point of, you know, also looking into social media and saying, well, like, is everything fair game now? Can you just say anything? Because it's a complete cesspit, like, and Generally, you have to do. It's a cesspit, Kenny, but not everyone can deal with it that well either, you know.
John, it's a cesspit, but it is, that's what it is. It's a cesspit. So, but everybody's buying into it seemingly. Obviously, I don't be involved in it myself. I'm just from the outside looking in. But that seems what it is. It's a cesspit. It's unregulated. Probably always will be from what I can see. So if you involve yourself in that and you're part of it, you got to suck it up. This is it. Don't let 20, 30, 50 idiots. I mean, there's how many billion people in the world. Don't get too hung up about or 30, 40, 50 people. Big men. Putting posts up there, or whatever, would never back it up. He went and knocked on the door. They'd probably cringe, and fold, like if you put it on them. So, you got to harden yourself up. From what I can see, it's part of the modern world. Just get on with it. Don't get too wound up about it. You just got to live. You just got to go and live regardless.
Yeah, I think if I'd like one word of advice for anyone at the moment, it would be spend less time on your phone and spend less time on social media, and you'll actually be better for it.
And a very good morning to all our viewers watching us on their mobile phones this morning. Kenny Cunningham, thanks a million.
No problem, lads. Take care.
Kenny, you know Kenny wouldn't be on social media. He's too sensible for that stuff.
What would be his first tweet?
What would be his first tweet? Something to do with this particular moment in time, maybe? But
that's the way he calls you John. Are you going to start calling him Ken?
Yeah, maybe. That was the big thing about Brian Clough. He'd always call you by he'd be Kenneth. And he'd a Scottish striker that he turned into a centre-back. And I forget his name, but it was Kenny, and he called him Kenneth. And he said, I don't even think my mum calls me Kenneth. But no, Kenny's... I do wonder in time will there be a complete revolt against social media, because there's just so much. Your life really isn't Kenny Byrne. Kenny Burns, was it, or Byrne? Yeah, Kenny Burns, a Scottish centre forward. I think he turned into centre back. But how much your life's enriched by social media is. I've made this point before. We're not going to be on our deathbed saying, God, I've such fond memories of those days I spent on social media. It'll be like such fond days of the day I fell in love, or the holidays I had, or the people I met. But you won't be talking about social media.
And then in third place is the 5,000 like tweet that you put up once upon a time.
That was great.
Let
me tell you about that. I tell you.
There is an online auction taking place this week for the Manus Kelly Trust. The trust was set up after Manus's death at the Donegal International Rally during the summer to help support his wife and 5 children. Up for auction is a test drive with a World Rally Championship driver, including flights and accommodation. You can also bid for All Ireland tickets for next year's final. And there's a Conor McManus and Michael Murphy joint training session or presentation up for grabs as well. Tons more besides, and you can go on to manuskellytribute.ie and click on the auction tab for more details. That is manuskellytribute.ie. Also on the website there's a link for donations, and any small contribution, of course, is greatly appreciated.